Good morning. Welcome to the program Agenda. I am your host, Cito Beltran, greeting you live from Barrio Capitolio, Pasig. And umuwi na muna tayo galing Manukan dito naman sa Kabuhayan. Okay, welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us here on Agenda. And thank you for being subscribers of Cignal TV. Viewers of Agenda and One News on Facebook as well as on YouTube, and of course those of you who have the Cignal Play app. Magandang umaga po sa mga tiga Candelaria, Quezon. We just visited Candelaria and we were welcomed on behalf of BMEG kasi nagturo tayo doon. We gave some lectures on food, on feeding and hog raising. Okay, today we will start the day. If I may, forgive me, medyo nagsasapal-sapal yung aking mga equipment dito. It is November 9, 2022. Hindi na November 8 ito. Okay, ewan ko ba kung ba't naging November 9 ito. And we will start with our daily starter for today. It is from, I believe, Seneca, the philosopher. I judge you unfortunate because you have never lived through misfortune. Okay? You have passed through life without an opponent. No one can ever know what you are capable, not even you. Wala po tayong pinapatamaan. This is not referring to anyone, but in that passage from, or in that thought shared by the philosopher Seneca, he is simply pointing out that if you are going to trials, tribulations, if you are facing challenges, if you are being tested, be thankful because it is in those things that you discover who and what you are made of. Kasi marami dyan, lumaki, talagang lumaki sa ano, sabi nga nila, gintong kulungan sa palasyo, hindi nadudumihan ng talampakan. But in the end, they never could really say, what they could face up to, how much they can meet or fight against, etc. Kumbaga, wala kayong sukatan ng inyong kakayanahan. So that's from Seneca, reminding us, be thankful for the challenges of life. Now, let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star, November 9, 2022. It's a Wednesday, and the headline goes, DOJ chief says, Duterte not involved in Lapid slay. Okay, ano ba naman yan? Pati ba naman yung former president, nasama na. Baka mamaya, pati si Jack Ruby, pati yung pumatay kay Kennedy, person of interest na dito. Anyway, as far as the headline is concerned, the DOJ chief, Secretary Boying Remulla said the buck stops with Bantag, although the investigation has yet to be fully completed because yung AMLAC or Anti-Money Laundering Council has not been completed yet. At the top of the front page, the header, churchgoers urged to continue wearing masks. Vice Chancellor Camelo Arada of the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Manila said face masks should be encouraged during liturgical celebrations and other gatherings in compassionate regard to the elderly and vulnerable. Okay, maganda pong punto yon na pag kayo nagsisimba, if you go to hear mass, confession, etc., marami pong pare, elderly na, maraming mga nagdadasal, elderly rin, be considerate, compassionate consideration of the elderly. Wear your mask and still keep your distance. Okay. Meanwhile, unemployment rate eases to 5% in September. The number of jobless people dipped to its lowest level in nearly 3 years last month, but the number of employed also dropped as many opted to leave their jobs to go to school, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. Ayun po, no? So, on the right side of the banner, Senate eyes cut in confidential intelligence fund. Thank you, Lord. Nag-iisip na yung mga senador regarding these excessive intelligence funds, which at the end of the day will come from taxpayers or manggagaling sa inutang ng bayan, bayad ng bayang Pilipino. BBM wants disaster response under office of the President. President Marcos, meanwhile, wants the NDRRMC or National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council to be placed under his office, citing the need to improve the government's response during calamity due to the impact of climate change. Maganda yun, na nakokontrol mo, nasisilip mo, Mr. President. Pero sir, ang dami mo na pong trabaho. We will also be talking about a current position held by the President of the Philippines, which is Secretary of Agriculture, on today's show. Okay, now, dadagdagan pa. Mahirap naman yata yan. Meanwhile, some good news, okay? President Marcos pours sparkling wine on the nose of a C-295 medium lift aircraft during a turnover blessing ceremony of military assets at the Basa Air Base in Florida Blanca, Pampanga yesterday. Joining him are Spanish Ambassador Miguel Utrey Delgado and PAF Chief Lieutenant General Connor Anthony Canlas Sr. Ni-research po natin ng mabilisan yung C-295. Legitimate po yan na multi-function aircraft used in different military operations, transports, etc. Hindi po yan executive jet na pinalalabas na military aircraft. Siyang tunay. Okay. Meanwhile, you may have forgotten but in the last week, we are commemorating Typhoon Yolanda's massive destruction and death toll left in the Philippines. President Marcos vowed not to forget the fatalities, especially the uncounted dead from Super Typhoon Yolanda, as the country commemorated the anniversary of the powerful cyclone that devastated the Visayas in November 2013. If I'm not mistaken, it was November 4, 2013 yata. Okay. Meanwhile, the blood moon is seen from Quezon City. Pinagkaguluhan ang pulang buwan. Okay, pulang buwan kagabi. At ako nung nakita ko yan, huli na. Hindi na siya blood, namuti na siya, naubusan na siya ng dugo. Okay, intimacy among teens worries Population Commission. Popcom officer in charge, Lolito Tacardon, called for intensified monitoring among students to prevent possible teenage pregnancy. Aray ko po, wag nyo nang problemahin yung intimacy, problemahin nyo yung natututunan ng mga bata and yung hindi alam ng mga bata regarding unplanned pregnancy, okay, extramarital activity, etc. Meanwhile, MMDA adjusted mall hours starts on Monday in anticipation of a surge in traffic volume. During the Christmas season, mall operations in Metro Manila will be adjusted. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority announced yesterday that starting November 14, the MMDA said malls would operate from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Mall-wide sales are also prohibited during weekdays, okay? The adjusted mall hours will be in effect until January 6, 2023. Only in the Philippines, okay? Pag nag-sale ang mall, patay ang traffic. Okay, and last but not the least, we have a photo of ASEN has completed its pioneering engineering transition mechanism transaction, fully divesting the 246 megawatt coal plant to move closer to achieving 100% renewables generation. Okay, so yan po, medyo ika nga may mga good news naman sa energy sector. Okay, I think that's all we have as far as the front page of the Philippine Star goes. Now, let's tackle our topic for today, and it's all about the subject matter of agriculture. If you recall in yesterday's program, Jarius Bondok and Marichu Maceda, my bosses or senior ko, mga senior ko as columnists in the Philippine Star, both mentioned about the gag order issued by the senior undersecretary of the DA, preventing officials of the Department of Agriculture from talking, giving interviews with the media. And I confirmed that to be true because I realized that we have been trying to help the Bureau of Animal Industry because this program is pro-agriculture, and we couldn't get the director. I got the undersecretary of who's spokesperson, and parang puro dead end. Wala lang makapagsabi na gag order pala sila. Now, what's the problem here? I think if we can't talk to the people inside, we better talk to someone who has been on the inside and now the outside. Okay, let's introduce our expert for this morning. Roll the Betamax, please.
Manny Piñol was Agriculture Secretary under the term of former President Rodrigo Duterte. During those years, he was also made concurrent head of the National Food Authority Council in September 2018 and chair of the Mindanao Development Authority in 2019. Prior to this, Piñol also held various government positions in Cotabato, including governor and vice governor.
Okay. Kapwang magmamanok at magsasaka. Good morning, Secretary. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Wala na kaming makausap na may alam sa DA. Ikaw na lang. Gag order.
Gag order, ha? Baka naman siguro gusto lang nilang isang mensahe lang ang lumalabas. Baka naman hindi siguro gag order. Baka na misinterpret lang, no? Because previously, nung ako ang DA Secretary, nung nagkaroon ng problema sa bird flu, I also issued a directive that henceforth, sabi ko, mula ngayon, isa lang ang spokesman natin pagdating sa ASF. Kasi ang daming opinion eh. Pag maraming opinion on a very critical issue, hindi magandang messaging, no? But iyon ay doon sa issue lang ng ASF, no? And it was not a gag order, rather it was a unified presentation of the interventions of DA in a crisis situation.
Yeah, well, but that's very different, Secretary, because in your time, and I can attest to that, bumababa ka nga ng kotse, nag-MRT ka, nagpapasundo ka ng motorsiklo para lang makadating sa studio, ma-interview. And your designated spokesperson, whoever that person was, actually came to TV, went before TV, went for the interviews, etc. But in this case, ako lang, personally, I just wanted to help the BAI promote their new circular on the shipment, inter-island shipment policies of poultry. Yun napakaliit na bagay as a former secretary, small time yun. Tulong
Totoo.
na lang yun.
Totoo. At
Wala.
napaka-importante nun na Cito, kasi pati ako, magmamanok ako, hindi ko alam, pwede na ba mag-ship?
Pwede na raw. In fact, kung ano-ano. Kanya lang, that's the problem. People are not well-versed unless mapanood sa TV, makita sa Facebook or sa radyo. Sabi ko nga, nanggaling ka na sa loob, nasa labas ka na ngayon, please explain to our viewers what government loses and what does the private sector loses when you have this kind of policy na gag order.
No, I don't think kung talagang gag order yan, I don't think it's a healthy move actually. Both impression-wise, perception-wise, hindi maganda. No? Ibig sabihin, para may tinatago ka. Siguro, ang dapat gawin nila dyan, meron silang daily bulletin siguro, para maliwanagan ng mga tao yung issues na gusto nilang malaman. No? Pero yung total gag order, sino ang dinesignate nilang spokesman? Wala rin.
Merong nagsasalita, si Miss Christine. Pero hindi niya ang nasasakop lang niya o sa impression ko are the events that are being activated or being participated in by the DA. But in terms of policies, announcement, kasi parang may website, di basahin mo yung website, ikaw nasa labas ka na. Lahat ba nakakaintinding pumunta ng website o Facebook?
At saka yung spokesman, hindi niya rin malaman yung mga detalye at technicalities ng mga issues. So ang magandang gawin siguro dyan, okay pa rin yung ilimit yung spokesperson per department or per agency. Say for example sa BAI, hindi naman pwedeng may tagapagsalita na mag-i-explain ng issues sa animal industry na walang alam sa paghahayop, no? So kailangan siguro per bureau, per department, authorize sila na mag-issue ng statement on behalf of their bureaus or departments.
Okay. Now, could you give us your assessment, being on the outside now, ano bang usap-usapan sa mga nasasakupan as far as agriculture is concerned? The President has taken the position of Secretary of Agriculture, and the people I talk to are kind of saying, what is his plan or program? So parang wala pa to the people I'm talking. What about down there in Mindanao? What's the impression regarding Bongbong Marcos as Secretary of Agriculture?
Well, number one, the move of the President to take over the Department of Agriculture, unang tingin ko, maganda. Why? Kasi for the first time, yung Secretary of Agriculture, hindi pwedeng baliwalain yung kanya recommendation. Kanya lang, mukhang nagkamali yata ako sapagkat sa Senate hearing sa budget, for example, nilalampaso ni Cynthia Villar yung representante ng Secretary of Agriculture and kini-question yung mga programa ng Department of Agriculture. So ang tingin ko dyan, dapat ma-realize Senado, lalo na nung Committee on Agriculture, na hey, ang Secretary ng Agriculture, Presidente na mag-a-aproba ng budget. And dapat himayin nila yung project ng DA in the context of is this really the priority program of the President? So ang tingin ko, kailangan talaga ni President Marcos ng isang matibay na backup sa DA, no? And in fairness to my friend, si Ding Panganiban, is a very hardworking person, no?
Mhm.
Pero kailangan talaga diyan how do you call this? Definitive yung kanyang kapangyarihan to make decisions on behalf of the president. Siguro ang nangyayari ngayon dahil walang maliwanag na direktiba, itong gawin mo, hanggang diyan ka lang, hanggang diyan ka lang. Siguro kaya nangangapa sila. Kaya ang dinig ko, every time na may meeting, the meeting always ends up with we will refer this to the president, no? So that delays the action actually. Ang kailangan gawin siguro, since si Ding Panganiban ng senior undersecretary, he should be given how would you call this? A level of authority na yung mga bagay na kayang desisyonan sa level niya, desisyonan niya na. At wag na siya matakot doon sa nangyari kay Leo Sebastian.
Yeah. Apparently, that has traumatized not just DA officials, even officials in other places, other departments. Parang ang sentimento is, naku, teka, dapat yata dito, bago mag-announce, i-clear muna sa Malacanang at baka masibak ka. So as you pointed out, all of this, we've actually ended up with a bureaucratic red tape amongst themselves.
Yeah, right. Ayun ang isang naging problema dyan, no? So, ang sa aking pananaw, kailangan dyan ma-define yung scope ng powers ni Ding Panganiban. And dapat sabihan sa kanya, ito yung kaya mong gawin, no? Ako tingin ko, except for policy matters, pag yung run-of-the-mill na functions ng DA, hindi na dapat siguro ipaalam sa presidente yun.
Okay.
Policies lang, ibig sabihin, say for example, on the matter of the policy on importation, for example, should we continue the importation policy? That is something that the president should handle. Pero yung mga pang-araw-araw na mga trabaho, siguro hindi na dapat katakutan, kasama sa trabaho yan . Kapag natakot kang sibakin ka, di huwag ka na lang.
Yeah, but you know, you've been DA secretary, okay. What are the things that Ding Panganiban can do versus only the president can do? Kasi ang alam ko, if you are an OIC, like in the Department of Health, you have very limited powers in terms of approving, putting your signature, etc. Kasi OIC ka lang. Pero kung secretary ka, you can roll out so many projects, budgets, contracts, etc. With the president handling two positions, what's the drawback there? What is the disadvantage of having a senior undersecretary? Maliban pa doon sa sinasabi mong major policy, kasi sabi ni BBM, he won't step down as DA secretary until all the critical structural reforms are implemented. Sabi ko, teka, anong critical structural reform?
Yung problema, walang structural reforms na nangyayari dito . I'm a private sector member of the National Security Council, representing the food sector or the agriculture sector.
Okay.
And ang isa sa mga recommendations ko actually, which I still would like to verify kung na-actionan, no? Yung sinasabi ko na patuloy na polisiya ng dependence on importation in addressing food inflation. Mali . Yan ang palpak. Today, for example, yung latest na inflation numbers sa food sector, food and beverages, was 9.4. That's the highest in history. Noong panahon ko, 2.2 lang ang inflation sa agriculture. Buwabula na yung bibig ni Carlos Dominguez. Dahil pinupukpok niya yung agriculture, bakit daw hindi mababa yung 2.2? But at that time, sinasabi ko sa kanila, Yung number na yan actually, bababa yan in the long term kung ma-develop natin yung level of production and efficiency ng ating agriculture sector. Kanya lang, nagkaroon kami ng policy differences.
Yeah.
They wanted to address that problem by importing. I wanted to address that problem with a long-term solution, which is efficient production, focus
Yeah.
on local production, because yun yung pinakamatibay na sandalan natin in times of
Yeah,
crisis.
but back then, Sec Manny, back then, that was the ideal and it wasn't a critical situation. But with Ukraine, with all of these climate issues, with our problem with the dollar, we are now maybe what, 3 times deeper into the hole. And now I don't know if you've noticed it in Mindanao, but I have been talking to friends and they have been all saying, alam mo Cito, sa probinsya may mga shortages na ng basic commodity na hindi mo na makikita sa palengke or napakamahal or hindi mo makita sa supermarket. It's only in Metro Manila that the supply is being sustained, but outside kinakapos na. Now, evidently we're going to have to rely on even more importation. What's your reaction to that?
No, sabi ko nga mali eh. Look, say for example, bakit tumaas yung presyo ng pagkain? For example, dalawang dahilan, no? Number
Yeah.
one, yung overdependence natin sa importation. Beyond our control yung pricing worldwide eh. So ano magagawa mo ngayon diyan? Whereas hindi ko naman sinasabi na ninisi ako. Whereas kung sinunod nila yung recommendation ko ng araw na palakasin yung local productivity, sapagkat kapag nagkaroon man ng krisis, halimbawa, bigas, no? Ang sinasabi ko noon, ang ating self-sufficiency level na tinatarget, na dapat nasa 96% tayo. Hindi naman natin na pwedeng sabihin na 100% kasi meron tayong commitment sa WTO. We have to
Okay.
allow imported rice to come in. But kapag pinabayaan mong bumagsak yan to below 90, kapag nagkaroon ng pagtaas ang presyo ng bigas worldwide, which is happening right now, mahirapan ka makarecover because it takes some time before you are able to increase your production.
Okay,
Whereas kung naandun ka sa
assuming
96%,
oh,
maski magkaroon pa ng pagtaas ng presyo ng imported rice, kaya mong habulin kasi 4% lang hinahabol mo.
okay, pero
Now-
ngayon, Sec Manny, ngayon wala ka ng yellow onions. Yung red onion mo, kahit hindi popular, talagang pinapatulan na yung Baguio string beans mukhang Metro Manila string beans na itsura Panipis ng panipis, hindi na yung matataba at healthy. But anyway, in all seriousness, Sec, kasi isn't it too late? Some people are telling me, Cito, kahit na magtanim ka ng magtanim dyan, especially some economists, they're telling me, ay nako, it is not going to solve the problem and the food inflation. What is
No,
your
it will.
reaction?
It will. Look, manok for example. Bakit umiiyak yung mga magmamanok? Sapagkat napakamura ng farm gate price, napakamahal ng manok sa palengke. So ano nangyari? In between the farm gate and the market and the kitchen of the Filipino families, ano nangyari? Hindi natin na-correct yung marketing system.
Very
Tayo
correct.
ang may pinakamasamang marketing system sa Pilipinas.
Yeah, let me add. Meron akong 12 baboy na inaalagaan. Abay, ino-offer lang kami ng 120 per kilo. Sabi
Magkano
ko,
baboy sa palengke?
kanya nga, sabi ko nga, humanap ka nga ng 120 per kilo.
Precisely. Kanya nga
Oh.
noong nagkakaipitan na ganyan, pag appoint sa akin or paghiling sa akin ni Secretary Clarita Carlos na maging Food Security Advisor ng NSA, sinabi ko kagad, i-reactivate natin yung Food Terminal Incorporated. Dapat meron tayong buying stations ng lahat ng produkto ng ating mga magsasaka sa probinsya. And meron din tayong outlet sa Metro Manila para mabawasan natin yung mga kamay na dinadaanan ng kamatis, ng talong, ng isda, ng karne from the farm gate to the kitchen of the Filipino family. Now,
Okay.
I made that recommendation last year, almost one
Yeah.
year na. Wala pang movement. I don't blame the president. Dapat ito, the legislative bodies should have taken cudgels actually. Sila kasi yung mag-a-amend ng batas na gumawa ng FTI at sila dapat ang maglalagay ng pondo sa FTI para lahat ng mga probinsya. Halimbawa, I'll give you an example. Magkano ang kalabasa dito sa amin? Oh, 5 piso, 6 na piso.
Mhm.
Magkano ang saba rito sa amin ngayon? 5 piso ang 1 kilo. Magkano ang lakatan? Napakamura. Bakit napakamahal sa inyo? Sapagkat from Cotabato to Manila, mas mahal ang pag-transport ng saging kaysa mag-ship kami ng Cavendish from Davao to Japan. Kasi napaka-inefficient ng ating logistical system.
Mhm.
And there is no other agency that can correct this except government. Sapagkat we are a country geographically fragmented.
Okay.
Napakamahal ng movement ng goods.
Sir Manny, time out lang tayo. Alam mo naman, media ka rin eh. Kailangan ko mag-break. Meron lang tayong 1-minute break. When we come back, let's continue tackling that and let's address the question. Some people are saying that President Bongbong Marcos should simply relinquish the position of Secretary of Agriculture and find someone to take the job full-time. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, nasasapian yata ako eh. Nasabi ko kanina, ang guest ko eh, Marichu Maceda, hindi po. Si Marichu Villanueva po. Si Marichu Maceda ay yung one of my favorite titas na sumakabilang buhay na a beautiful woman, part of the Vera Perez clan, nila Doc Perez, nila Tita Nene. Okay, now let's go back to our hot topic for today. With us, former Secretary of Agriculture, Manny Piñol. Secretary, may mga nagsasabi, some people have suggested that BBM should relinquish the position of Secretary of the DA and get a full-time guy or lady. What's your response?
Well, it's a presidential prerogative actually, and I will not question that. No?
Mhm.
Kaya lang, kung naintindihan natin, siyempre presidente siya, hindi lang naman agriculture ang kanyang tutukan. Dapat yung kanyang backup team dapat very capable and defined yung kanilang, yung extent ng powers nila. Tulad nung nangyari kay Leo Sebastian, for example, after that, tingin ko nagka-phobia lahat ng taga-DA. Ayaw gumawa ng desisyon, baka masunog. No? Now,
Correct.
kapag ganyan ang mindset ng mga tao nagpapatakbo ng department na teka muna, baka hindi magustuhan yan. Talagang mahihirapan ka mag-implement ng mga programa and hindi ka maka-move forward. Especially so in these times of crisis na kailangan yung reaction sa decision making sito dapat mabilisan eh. Hindi pwede itong teka-teka rito. Hindi pwedeng pag-aralan mo natin yan, hindi pwede yung ganong attitude ngayon. Dapat ngayon crisis management ang attitude ng nagpapatakbo sa Department of Agriculture.
You use the term crisis management. Clearly, your impression is we are already in a crisis or
We are.
Okay, please elaborate kasi maraming tiga-media and this is the point of interest here, no? many opinion writer, columnists, generally, pag sumusulat sila, and you've been a columnist yourself, when we write, the bigger group tends to focus on business and politics. But recently, many columnists have really been spending time on the subject matter of food crisis, food inflation, the state of agriculture. Gaano ba ka lala, or how critical is our situation regarding food inflation and potential food shortage?
Well, kung yung dating karne ng baboy na 250 umaabot na ng 350 ngayon, masama talaga. Ibig sabihin, hindi na kayang abutin ng ordinaryong manggagawa, ang sweldo ng ordinaryong manggagawa. That's a crisis. Okay?
Mhm.
Is it something that could be solved? Oh yes, of course. Tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, dito sa probinsya, mura ang mga produkto. Pero ang problema, mula sa farm gate papunta sa merkado, 10 kamay ng mga middlemen ang dinadaanan ng mga produkto. Huwag na tayong lumayo. Yung Batangas Broilers Association na lang. Bakit sila umiiyak? Sapagkat yung kanilang farm gate napakababa. Kinukuha ng mga biyahero, dadalhin sa mga palengke, silang kumikita. Mas malaki pang kita nila. Ang problema dyan, dalawa ang tinagamo eh. Tinagamo yung farmer, you dampen his enthusiasm to produce because he doesn't earn much. At the same time, tinagamo si consumer na hindi na niya kayang abutin yung presyo ng manok na napakamura. Kaya nga ang solusyon ko dyan, etong crisis situation na to, pakialaman na ng gobyerno. And there is only one agency I know which could play that role. It is an existing agency, never mind if it's a paper tiger, no? Never mind if it's a toothless tiger right now. Pero kapag binigyan mo ng pondo ito, in-amend mo yung kanyang mandate, meron ng structures ang NFA. You remember, hindi na masyado namimili ng palay ang NFA ngayon.
Yes.
Lahat ng lugar sa buong Pilipinas, meron silang mga warehouses. Lalagyan mo lang yun ng stand-alone cold storage facilities. Bilhin mo yung kamatis ng Nueva Vizcaya na minsan ay nabubulok na lang. Bilhin mo yung gulay ng Baguio na nabubulok. Pinag-aralan ko to Cito eh. Yung carrots sa Baguio, for example, 15 hanggang 20 lang ang kilo niyan mula sa magsasaka. Pagbagsak sa Baptisi, lilinisin ng konti, ilalagay sa supot, tumaas ng 10. Ita-transfer sa truck, tumaas ng 10. Itatawid sa NLEX, tataas ng 10. Pagbagsak sa hanggang umabot sa kusina ng Pilipinong pamilya, umaabot na ng 80 hanggang 100. Saan napunta yung in between 20 at saka 80? Doon sa mga middlemen na hindi naman nagpawis. Ibig sabihin, kung makukorek natin to, kung ang halimbawa, ang isda ng Tawi-Tawi ay madi-deliver sa isang cold storage at merong barko ang ating gobyerno na hahakot noon mula Tawi-Tawi papuntang or Basilan papuntang Metro Manila, kailangan mo kasi ng isang national network. Hindi pwedeng private enterprise ito kasi walang matapang na private businessman na mag-i-invest ng paghahakot ng isda mula Tawi-Tawi o Basilan papuntang Metro Manila sapagkat malulugi. But kung national network, FTI, pwede niyang ibalanse. Meron siyang missionary route na magpapalugi siya, babawiin niya sa ibang rota, nakikita siya. So it's a national business, no? And at the same time, kikita pa yung FTI. So meron ng NFA warehouses all over the country. You have the infrastructure. You have the institution. You have the institution. Kailangan mo lang pera at saka amendment sa mandate ng FTI.
But Sec Manny, you are just one of so many brilliant people or veterans or experienced farmers and bureaucrats who have hundreds, if not thousands, of solutions and ideas. But the question is, why isn't the boat moving?
Well, number one, in the case of FTI, for example, hindi naman siguro bingi o bulag yung ating mga legislators na hindi lang naman ako nag-a-advocate yan eh. Marami na, simulan nung binanggit ko na dapat ibalik yung FTI, marami nang sumasakay. Hindi naman siguro bulag ubingi yung ating mga legislators para hindi nila mabasa yun o hindi marinig yung hinaing ng ating mga consumers na dapat madala sa kanilang kusina yung mga produkto sa murang halaga. Can you imagine, Cito? Look, halimbawa, meron kaming buying station dito ng saging, kalabasa, o yung babang prutas sa Cotabato. Naka-cold storage. Merong food outlets sa Metro Manila for isda, gulay, direct from the FTI buying stations in the provinces to the FTI food outlets in Metro Manila na kung saan pwedeng mamalengke si Cito Beltran, dala-dalang basket at ang presyo ng kanyang bibilhin halos 2-3 piso o 5 piso lang itinaas sa farm gate ng pagbili sa probinsya. Wouldn't that change the whole thing? It would. Ang problema natin dyan, ang dami kasing decision makers. Number one, things like this will have to go through our legislative institutions because you have to amend the mandate of FTI. Number two,
wala na. We're dead ducks on the water because if you have to go through Congress to change the mandate of the NFA, to change the mandate of the FTI, and then you have to get Congress to provide budgets for these key agencies or outlets, you're looking at 6 months to 1 year at the most.
Okay, now, kung halimbawa, totoo ngang matatagalan through legislation, meron na tayong ginawang proofs of concept nung araw, yung DA Chenda. Expand it. Partner with NFA. Use the facilities of NFA. Pero kailangan mo ng pondo. So kung walang ibibigay na pondo ang Senado, saan pwedeng manggaling yung pondo na yun? Well, use the President's available funding, yung social fund niya or whatever, no? Or any fund available sa DA para bigyan ng pondo yung DA Chenda o yung ginawa, kasi yung DA Chenda kasi binago ni Dar yung pangalan Kadiwa something, Kadiwa on wheels, whatever. But same concept. DA na at saka NFA magpartneran at saka mag-open sila ng mga buying stations doon sa mga probinsya na kung saan merong excess production of commodities needed in Metro Manila and open up outlets in Metro Manila during the period of crisis.
Is there basis for us to suspect that all of this may be intentional, this non-movement may be intentional to create an even bigger crisis so that there will be basis for some people to say, hindi, pinakamagaling yan, i-privatize na lang lahat yan. Kasi meron usapan, apparently the president is meeting with an agri-ventures group, the Chenye Ag Ventures, regarding rice. During your time, you were talking extensively with Israel, but that's government to government. Is there cause for concern that someone might be manipulating things so that privatization will be on the agenda?
It could be. It could be. In fact, isa yan sa mga dahilan kung bakit binuksan yung merkado ng Pilipinas sa pagbaha ng imported na bigas. Agenda yon ng ADB at saka World Bank. Yun ang matagal nilang binabalik-balik sa Pilipinas na buksan yung merkado. Ang sinasabi ko nung araw, wala naman tayong sinasabi na wag buksan. Pero dapat calibrated yung pagpasok ng ating imported rice para protection mo yung local industry. Because at the end of the day, tulad na nangyari ngayon, kapag weak yung iyong local rice industry, in times of crisis like this, you will really be held hostage by the importers who will control the price of rice. No? Dagdag pa dyan, meron tayong mga legislators na involved mismo sa rice trading.
Yes.
O rice importation. Kaya ayon lang baguhin yung rice tarification law na yan, maski alam nilang palpak, ayon lang baguhin sapagkat pagpipilitan nila yon. No? Pangatlo, yung pagkatigas ng ulo ng ating mga legislators na ayaw makinig. Halimbawa, yung sinasabi ko na bakit kayo namumudmod ng 5,000 piso sa mga rice farmers assistance daw? Saan pupunta yan? Saan pupunta yan? Bakit ayaw nyo nung idea na dapat si rice farmer ay bigyan nyo na lang ng loaning program para siya na lang bibili ng kanyang abono. Gusto niya talaga fertilizer subsidy. Alam mo ba, Sito, yung fertilizer subsidy na yan, isa yun sa pinakapalpak ng programa ng DA right now. May mga farmers na at the end of the day, ang matatanggap lang na abono 10 kilo. Can you imagine that? Kasi yun lang yung value ng kanyang yung
Coupon.
ibinibigay sa kanya. 10 kilo.
Okay.
Saan pupunta yan? Anong klaseng programa meron tayo?
Okay. Now, you've already brought that point up, so let me follow up on that. I believe it was Undersecretary Fermin Adriano who in his frustration said on this program, isara na lang yung DA at yung pondo ipamudmud na lang sa farmers kasi ganun lang din naman. That is what the DA ends up doing. They are simply giving dole-outs, giveaways. They don't really have a policy or a long-term program. Is this the fault of DA or is this the responsibility of the president as president?
No, actually, hindi fault ng DA because ang DA will only operate based on the policies and laws that allow it to operate. Ibig sabihin, bakit namumudmud ng subsidy ang DA? Kasi yun sinasabi nung RTL eh. Bakit pinabayaan ng DA yung pag-establish ng mga drying facilities para sa rice industry? Sapagkat ang sinasabi ng RTL, ang equipment, more on tractors, more on production, samantalang hindi naman yun ang kailangan talaga ng farmer. So wag nating sisihin ang agency because the agency will only implement what it is directed by law or by policy to implement.
Okay, so but how do you kasi Sec, pasensya ka na no? I feel like we're chasing after our tail.
I know.
Paikot-ikot lang, but I wrote a column for today. Doing with less or doing without. Ang Pilipino ngayon sa kanilang puwersahang pagtitipid binabawasan na lang yung dating kilo ang binibili, naging kalahating kilo, naging 1/4. Ngayon, isang guhit na lang para lang malasahan ng konti yung karne. At yung iba naman, wala na. Biglang vegetarian by force kasi di na nila kayang bumili ng itlog, bumili ng baboy, etc. It will come to a point that when the stomach boils, the country will boil.
Alam mo, ang nakikita ko rito, Sito, for as long as hindi nag-partner yung private sector at saka LGU, like say for example, may ginagawa kami dito sa Mindanao ngayon. Kami ni Senator Ping Lacson, pagkatapos ng eleksyon, nagtanim kami ng sorghum, yung grains. Pero ang kagandahan doon sa sorghum, it's a perennial crop actually. It regrows, nagraraton. And yung kanyang tangkay at saka dahon ay nanatiling berde pag-ani. So magandang silage, pampakain sa baka. Now, by December this year, we will be harvesting our sorghum. We'll start harvesting our sorghum by volume. And we will have a lot of silage. Kaya ngayon, sinulatan ko yung Mindanao Development Authority. Sabi ko, pwede bang i-arrange yung meeting namin, private sector at saka yung mga governors ng Mindanao. I-encourage natin yung mga governors na mag-establish ng cattle breeding facility at saka cattle fattening facility. Kasi marami kaming feeds.
Correct.
Sayang lang, ibabasura na namin to. Pag walang kabaka nakakain ito, itatapon na namin to. So rather than throw this to rot, why don't we encourage the LGUs to establish these cattle fattening and breeding facilities para may pampakain na sila ready, murang-mura, then we will be able to start an industry. Why am I engaging the LGUs? Because unlike the national bureaucracy, Cito, the LGUs are more flexible. They can implement programs mid-year. Ibig sabihin, all that they need is convince their municipal council or their provincial council to approve a program. They could even come up with supplemental budgets to fund the program. They could go to DBP or Land Bank to fund the program. Unlike sa national government, yung sinasabi mo kanina, tama yung sinabi mo. Sa national government, may proposal ka. Teka muna, dadaan ka muna sa DBCC. dadaan ka muna sa Kongreso, dadaan ka muna sa Senado, and then saka pa isasama sa budget. Kapag ngayon mo lang naisip yung programa mo o project mo, 2022, patapos ng taon, ma-i-implement mo yan 2024 pa. Maisama sa budget, okay? So that's why sinasabi ko rito ngayon, I am more confident na kapag ang private sector ay nakipag-partner sa LGUs at the local level, mas madali nating ma-resolve to. So halimbawa, hindi kaya nung ating DA na kumbinsihin yung ating mga senador na i-amend yung FTI. Posible siguro na mag-organize yung League of Municipalities or League of Provinces to come up with a network of provincial markets.
Well, why can't they put up their own FTIs and NFAs? Because there is the local government code,
but it has
under the Mandanas decision of the Supreme Court, the local governments will now have an even greater portion of IRA or income generated.
Yes, precisely. So ito yung isang idea na pwede nating i-present sa mga League of Governors, no? Under the local government code, LGUs have corporate personalities. Ibig sabihin, pwede silang magnegosyo. We will have to present this idea to them. Hey, governors, why don't you organize yourselves, form a corporation composed of the League of Provinces, and then come up with a marketing system na yung produkto ng isang probinsya in excess of what it needs could be moved to the next province where it is needed or could be moved to Metro Manila. Then we will be able to come up with an LGU-based marketing system that will correct the rotten and manipulative and exploitative marketing system that we have right now.
Isn't that singing to the choir, ika nga nila? Because in the province, tayo, ikaw, ako, meron akong, kung 100 puno ng saging, meron. Kung mga 50 nyog, meron ako. Kung papaya, meron akong ilang piraso. May mga manok ako, poultry. Promoting agriculture in the provinces outside of Calabar Zone and Metro Manila and Bulacan, parang people will say, alam mo Cito, that's not gonna fly because it's not a major challenge for them. Parang they will produce food for themselves. Why should they produce food for Metro Manila when Metro Manila and the national government doesn't really seem to understand or is not worried about the problem?
Well, if they look at this food production activity as an income generation activity, then they will have a different perspective of this idea.
Well, that's true because Mindanao at sa Visayas, you have Cebu that demands, I think, 4,000 hogs a day.
Yeah, precisely.
Sa Davao ba, ilang baboy ang kailangan? Hindi masyado yatang popular ang baboy dyan sa Mindanao. Baka, I suppose.
Yeah. Actually, sa Mindanao, manok.
Aha.
Manok.
Okay. Now, what is your idea? I proposed this crazy idea in several tumpukans. And sabi ko, kung nahihirapan maghanap ng super secretary for agriculture, bakit hindi na lang hati-hatiin? One for Mindanao, one for Visayas, and one for Luzon. Kasi parang mag-compete kayo, kanya ka, I know it's crazy secretary, pero ang dami nang natatakot.
To whom will they answer to? Sa national level.
Di kay Presidente directly. Kumbaga, parang just to get the boat moving.
That will run counter to the policy of right sizing ng gobyerno right now, no? Or consolidation of functions and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Kasi alam mo, marami kasing same line, no? Ang aka ng iba, kapag nag-create ka ng bagong opisina, you solve the problem. Actually, you add up to the problem.
If you're
kasi
going
you will be creating a new bureaucracy.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the secretary per se. Everything else remains the same. Kumbaga, parang in past administration, they all had, di ba tawag nun, regional something, yung Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao na reporting to Malacanang?
Yes. Presidential Assistant for Mindanao, si Paul Dominguez
Yun.
nung araw.
Oh, si Paul Dominguez for Mindanao. Oh.
Pero ang problema nun, ang functions niya at saka funding.
Mhm. So,
Yun ang
go
maging
to the...
problema doon.
Okay, so dapat kukuha ng pera doon sa mga probinsya.
Yeah.
Okay, well...
Siguro ang dapat gawin ng presidente ngayon, if I may suggest, no?
Yeah.
I-define na lang yung powers needing panganiban.
Mhm.
Oh, sige na, ikaw na bahala dyan. Basta pagdating sa issues of policy, konsulta sa akin. Yung usual operations ng DA, bahala ka nang dumiskarte dyan.
Mhm.
Parang yung setup, kasi di ba may corporation kami ng Laping Lacson, nasa Manila naman sila, ako nag-ooperate dito. So ang policy namin, sige Manny, bahala ka na dyan, diskartehan mo yan. So akong diskarte rito. Then I just report to them.
Okay.
Pag pumalpak, edi sagot ko.
O di ganun din, Visayas, Mindanao at saka Luzon. Ang kulit, ano? Anyway, Sec Manny, thank you very much. I just pray to God that someone in Malacanang, someone in Congress, the Senate, was watching our program today, because we are not anti-anybody, but if we don't push for agriculture, I think so many people will lose their jobs and will go hungry.
Totoo.
Your comment on that, please.
Whereas if you boost agriculture, you will create jobs, you will boost the local economy, you will save on your precious foreign reserves, and most of all, you will not be dependent on anybody else.
Okay. Last question ko na lang. Should the president resign the position?
Well, right now, tingin ko, he can hold on to it. Palakasin niya lang yung kanyang backup. Kasi nakikita ko yung advantage ng presidente at sekretaryo. Basta magaling yung backup team niya.
Okay.
Like say for example, pag ako ang pag presidente at sekretaryo ng DA, yung bang programa niya, kukwestiyonin mo? Kung fully backed yung kanyang team sa DA.
Well,
Pag sinabi
apparently...
niya, Ding, yan ang programa natin, ilaban mo yan. Pag tinanong ka sa Senado, bakit yan ang programa, sabihin nyo, programa ko yan. Pag ginano ni Bongbong ni President Bongbong si Ding Panganiban, I'm sure things will move.
Okay, well, as long as the senators understand that the president is serious about all of this. Okay, former Secretary Manny Piñol, as always, thank you very much for your time and for graciously educating us and our viewers. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
Okay, that's former Secretary Manny Piñol giving us at least expert siya because he's a veteran, he's been there, he's also media, and hindi yung sabi-sabi. Kumbaga, he knows what goes on in the different agencies. So anyway, let's go to our blessing for today. And we close with the blessing from the first book of Timothy, chapter 2, verse 1 to 2. I urge you first of all to pray for all people. Ask God to help them, intercede on their behalf, and give thanks for them. Pray this way for kings and all who are in authority. Regardless of your frustration, let us pray for the president, for all his cabinet members, and even for those around them, that the Lord's will be done. I'm Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us today. God bless all of you. Please keep it here on One News.